On Monday morning at Blue Ridge Bank in downtown Atlanta, the air buzzed with the promise of a busy day. The newly appointed branch manager, Miss Susan Marley, stood at her station, her polished demeanor masking a whirlwind of nerves. This was her moment, a chance to prove she could handle the responsibility that came with her prestigious new role. She told herself she was ready for anything, but was she? As the clock struck 9:17 a.m., a man walked in, middle-aged, calm, and quietly confident. He was dressed simply, a crisp shirt, jeans, and a demeanor that didn't scream wealth, yet commanded attention. Strolling up to the counter with an unassuming grace, he greeted Susan. "Good morning," he said, his voice steady, even warm. "I'd like to deposit a large sum of money into my account." Susan paused, her professional smile faltering as her eyes gave him a quick once-over. Something about him didn't fit the picture she had in her mind. She tightened her grip on the counter. "We'll need to verify your account first," she replied curtly, her tone clipped, her guard already up. "Of course," the man said with a polite nod, handing over a neatly folded piece of paper. Susan glanced at her screen as she typed in the account details, but what she saw made her blink twice. Surely, this had to be a mistake. Leaning in closer, she lowered her voice to a whisper. "Are you sure these details are correct?" "Yes, they are," the man replied, his tone unchanging. "You'll also need to prepare for the deposit. It's a transfer of $200 million. For a second, it felt like the room itself had stopped breathing. Susan froze, the words hanging in the air like an impossible riddle. Then she leaned back in her chair, arms crossing in defiance. "Listen, sir," she began, her voice cold now. "We don't tolerate scams here. If this is some sort of joke, I suggest you leave before I call security." But the man didn't flinch. His calm composure didn't waver, not even a little. "This is not a joke," he said, meeting her gaze. "Maybe you'd like to see my business card?" He reached into his briefcase. Susan shook her head sharply. "No need," she snapped. "Scammers always have fake business cards. You can't fool me. You probably think I don't know how these schemes work, but I do." By now, whispers rippled through the bank. A few customers exchanged glances. Others shook their heads disapprovingly. "But I'm not scamming you," the man said firmly, his voice tinged with a quiet conviction. "You're making a mistake." Susan, however, was no longer listening. Her finger jabbed toward the exit. "People like you always try to game the system. Do you think you can just waltz in here, claiming to have millions? Get out." And then, silence. A tall man in a sharp suit stepped into the room. He had entered unnoticed, but his commanding presence now drew every eye. He walked with purpose toward the commotion, clearing his throat as he reached the counter. "What's going on here?" he asked, his voice measured but firm. Susan turned to him, her face flushed red. "Mr. Taylor," she began, struggling to sound composed, "this man claims to have $200 million to deposit. I was just about to call security." Mr. Taylor raised a single eyebrow, his expression unreadable. "And why?" he asked, his voice sharpening just slightly. "Would you call security for that?" "Because he's lying." Susan shot back, gesturing toward the man. "Just look at him." But Mr. Taylor's gaze shifted to the man, a flicker of recognition softening his stern demeanor. "Mr. Daniels," he said warmly, stepping forward and extending his hand. "It's been a while. Good to see you, Taylor," the man replied with a small smile, shaking the offered hand. Susan's jaw dropped. Her eyes darted between the two men. You know him," she stammered. "Of course I do," Mr. Taylor said, turning to address the room. His voice carried a weight that silenced even the softest whispers. "Everyone meet Mr. James Daniels," he announced. "The owner of Daniels Innovations, our bank's largest investor." The color drained from Susan's face as her breath caught in her throat. But, she stuttered, unable to form a coherent thought. Mr. Taylor's tone turned sharp, slicing through the lingering tension. "Let me make one thing clear," he said, his words directed at Susan. "Mr. Daniels isn't just a client. His investments are the reason this bank survived the last financial crisis," Mr. Taylor declared, his voice echoing through the hushed room. "Without him, we wouldn't even be here today." Susan's mouth opened, then closed, but no words came out. Her usual sharp demeanor had crumbled into stunned silence. She looked at Mr. Daniels, her face flushed with regret. Mr. Daniels, ever calm and composed, offered a faint smile. "I was hoping to keep this visit low-key," he said, his gaze resting briefly on Susan, "but it seems that's no longer possible." Mr. Taylor turned to Mr. Daniels, his tone filled with genuine remorse. "Mr. Daniels," he said, "on behalf of Blue Ridge Bank, I deeply apologize for the treatment you received today. This is unacceptable." Then, pivoting sharply to Susan, his expression hardened. "You've been here for barely 2 weeks," he said, his voice firm, "and this is how you treat our clients." "I didn't know," Susan stammered, her voice cracking under the weight of the moment. He didn't look the part." "Didn't look the part?" Mr. Taylor's tone turned icy as he cut her off. "And what exactly does someone with $200 million look like, Susan?" She had no answer. The silence that followed was deafening. Taking a deep breath, Mr. Taylor addressed the entire bank. His voice was steady, yet carried a weight that left no room for misunderstanding. "Here at Blue Ridge Bank, we pride ourselves on treating every client with respect, no matter who they are or how they dress. Today, that standard was broken. This incident is nothing short of disgraceful." Turning back to Susan, his expression softened just slightly, but his decision was unwavering. "You're fired. Effective immediately. Clear out your desk." Tears welled up in Susan's eyes as the reality of her actions crashed down on her. There was no point in arguing. She knew she had no defense. Head bowed, she walked away, humiliated and defeated. And then something unexpected happened. The room, which had been filled with tension moments before, erupted into applause. Customers clapped, their expressions ranging from approval to admiration. They weren't just clapping for Mr. Taylor or Mr. Daniels. They were clapping for the justice they had just witnessed. Mr. Daniels turned to Mr. Taylor, his calm demeanor still intact. "I appreciate how you handled that," he said with a slight nod. "Let's move forward with the deposit." "Of course," Mr. Taylor replied, motioning for an associate to escort Mr. Daniels to a private office. As Mr. Daniels disappeared into the back, the bank's lobby buzzed with energy. Customers couldn't stop talking about what they had just witnessed. Whispers of, "Can you believe that happened?" and "What a lesson," floated through the air. The moral of the story was crystal clear, resonating deeply with everyone present. Never judge a book by its cover. And so, we reach the end of our story. But before you go, let me ask, how often do we jump to conclusions based on appearances? Stories like these remind us to pause, to reflect, and to treat everyone with respect, no matter what. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like the video, share it with your friends, and hit that subscribe button to join us for more fascinating tales like this one. Oh, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss a story. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful day.